we'll be available in case you have any questions offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you all wholeheartedly, if you listen to me, I'm sure you will carry something and which will be beneficial in your profession. Although it's a big presentation, because the topic is such that you can speak on for days. Very difficult to cover in just 45 minutes. So what I will do, although it's a 55-page slide, the objective behind creating these slides is so that you have reading material which is beneficial for you, but I will be covering those things which I feel that whatever you have heard here, you carry with yourself, and that helps you in your audit profession. So, what is our role of internal auditor in the fraud prevention and detection? We have a great challenging role that we will go through. So this presentation, basically, I will be covering through what's basically the fraud, few facts about the fraud, a lot of statistics I would be covering. So that statistics will basically give you an idea about that when you go for any audit, you should have those pointers into your mind. And few of the case studies I will take thereafter, also narrating the importance of the data analytics, that how it can help internal auditors when we do the fraud and basically scenarios review. Again, thereafter the process, what is the mandatory reporting, how do we assess the fraud risk, and what is the process through which we can make the preventive controls and the detective controls, what is the investigation process, how does the interview happens, and finally, what's our take. This slide talks about what is common among them. So you will see here the name of the various companies. You must have heard of these names, I'm very sure. Enron, Satyam, Arthur Andersen, Xerox Corporation, WorldCom, Lehman Brothers, Parmalat. So all these companies' name we have heard, they were the big giant companies, but there was one common thing that happened with all of these companies. What's basically the common among these? I'm not taking you through basically what happened in each and every company. Okay, we know Enron, an American energy company. We know Satyam, which has now become Tech Mahindra. Fraud happened of 7,800 crores. Arthur Andersen, again, the company of auditing, providing consulting services, among the world's top 5 companies at that point of time. Xerox Corporation, again, the fraud of the $3 billion. WorldCom, again, the fraud happened in the telecom company. Lehman Brothers, the financial, basically, giant. Again, the fraud happened of $613 billion. And Parmalat, the food corporation, dairy corporation, based in Italy. Okay. So the common thing in all of these companies was fraud. So what happened because of these fraud happened? What happens? When the fraud happens, the situation happens like this. The big organization basically just collapses. So when we are working in a company, we will have to make sure the company for which we are working, there are adequate controls. It's our responsibility as an internal auditor to make the internal control environment stronger. Of course, we do have limitations, but we should do our work very honestly and with passion. That whatever we are doing, we will do our level best so that the company we are working for, the big corporations for which we are working for, they do not collapse like this in the absence of basically lack of internal controls, and also because of that probably the internal control team could not basically imagine what sort of a fraud risks were there. That's what we will be discussing. So we have an important role to play. So what's the fraud? I will be not going literally by the definition and all that. We all know it through the common sense. Why fraud happened, that is very important. As an auditor, we must know, we know in fact, why does the fraud happens. We are living in a world of greed. We all want iPhones, whether we have the capacity to purchase or not. We want to live beyond means. When we want to live beyond means, in that scenario, how to generate that income? How to have that sort of money so that we can afford that what's in our wish list? And the fraud happens. We try to find out the loopholes in the functions we are working. And thereafter, we start basically creating those sort of a situation and commit the fraud. The process owners commits the fraud. So there are basically three situations. One is pressure. There could be various types of a pressure in which a fraud situation happens. All those are listed below, but I will be talking about the one main thing. Results, results, result. We all see in every organization want to grow at an exponential speed. 20% growth, 25% growth, 30% growth. All the companies want to have that, whether there is a market demand or not. They want to achieve unrealistic targets. There is nothing wrong in achieving the unrealistic targets. There is nothing wrong in it. But the effort should be, we should be realistic as well. So, when we try to achieve just results, in that short of a scenario, even though the sales are there or not, many organizations, many companies, many owners are adopting those scenarios where they are inflating sales. There could be timing differences, issues, and all that. Again, in case of Enron, they adopted basically the practice of mark-to-market accounting. They want to show even the unrealized gains in the current income statements. Why does this happen? Because everyone wants to achieve the results very fast, tomorrow's results today. So when that sort of a pressure gets created on any employee or the leadership team, so at that time, they basically start creating these type of situations because of the pressure. So sometimes they achieve because of the management pressure, and sometimes they do to achieve their personal gains, that if they achieve an X number of a sales, they get an X amount of a percentage of basically bonuses or commission or whatsoever, you name it. Opportunity. Again, different people have different opportunities at the leadership position. Some people try to abuse the authority. Again, if there is an inadequate and if ineffective internal audit also, and we have not been able to catch those risk indicators in time, then that sort of a situation happens that fraud has been committed by someone who is having malicious interest. Again, segregation of the duties, inadequate segregation of the duties, lots of free engineering, lots of downsizing is happening across the globe. We want to have the optimal manpower. So in that scenario, what happens is there is a reduction of the manpower. So when there is a reduction of the manpower, asking work individual. Assume a scenario where a purchase requisition is approved by someone, he is also making the purchase order, he is also approving the purchase order, he is receiving the GRN, he is approving the payment. In the small organizations, in the small subsidiaries of a multinational company, these type of scenarios are not uncommon. A company which is based in India or a company based in any part of the world, having its offices across the globe, having more than 100 plus entities, which are just the sales entities virtually, there this type of a situation happening is not very uncommon. But at that point of a time, if we really want to see, as an auditor, it is our responsibility to basically highlight at that point of a time that there is a lack of segregation of duties, and this poses those sort of challenges. I'm not saying that you should just insist only. You should come out with what are the compensating controls it could have. What is the risk mitigation strategy in those type of scenarios? Again, the poor governance. And the third reason is basically people give the justification. It is, I did the fraud, that it is just the cost of doing business. I met one of the guy, you know, in my early days of when I was working for a company. His motive was, he said, Mr. Periwal, there are more than 5,000 companies in India. At that point of a time, I'm remembering 30 years back. He said, every year if I commit one fraud, I need to change only 30, 40 companies, that's all. And there are 5,000 companies. I will get a job because of my qualification. So prior to I get caught, or prior to I come to the knowledge of the auditor, I have committed my fraud, I have made the money. Some people have those type of basically, you know, motives behind when they commit these type of crimes. Why focus on fraud I'm talking about? Again, we should not just feel that it has happened in X company. It will happen to all of us. It's just a matter of time when. That's important. We all have gone through our past through the stage of the COVID. We were asking, are you okay? He said, no, I got afflicted with COVID. Oh, मैं तो अभी बचा हुआ हूँ. But everybody by and large. So it was just a point of a time when one gets afflicted. So increased vulnerability to the fraud is there. Why this increased vulnerability? We are moving digitally. There is nothing wrong in it moving digitization. But this is leading to all sort of a problems of, you know, when we are making electronic payments. At that time, people are coming out, those who are scamsters, those who are fraudsters, they're coming out with different ideas that how basically they can, you know, steal the money. I'm sure, you know, those type of cases where the look-alike mails are coming, say from the CEO of the company. Say my company name is UPL. L and I, more or less, it may look like same. And we don't see all the time that when the message has come, we don't see, we just see oh, this mail has come from this. We don't tally each and every word. We don't see each and every alphabet. It may be from some malicious intention. Somebody else has basically, you know, done the phishing. And they would have sent the mail that transfer this much of a money to this. If you are the CFO of the company, and if there is an instruction from the top leadership team, you end up doing so, and thereafter you realize, oh, what wrong I did. This money has gone to someone else's account. These type of messages are coming very often these days. You all might have experienced at some point of a time. We being a big company, UPL, we also got these type of messages more than 50 times. But we have put up a control that if there is a message from CEO, CFO, or this and that, any transfer request, any this request, just don't rely only on the email. Please make a call. Understand why it is being required. Ours is a company famous for acquisition. We did more than 25 acquisitions in the last 20 years. They will write just like this, that you transfer, we are doing on some confidential deal. And so you don't have to discuss with anyone else. We will have to just give some advance money as a token money, as a sign to understand the memorandum of understanding and like that. But the message is widely communicated across the globe that if these type of messages are coming, we need to be very careful. So with the advancement of the technology, these sort of challenges are also there. Impact on corporate fraud, there would be the losses, there would be the poor brand reputation if these types of things are happening. Lack of business credibility, stakeholders will definitely be at the loose. They will start losing the confidence in the company. We won't be able to retain the good talent which we have. So all these sort of challenges will have when there is a corporate fraud. Sharing with you some of the statistics This is very much available on the internet, ACFE, that is Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. So any fraud they talk about, they do the analysis on various fronts. This analysis is very important. I would like you all to listen. Why it is important, it will give you an idea. When you go for an audit, आप कहीं भी audit पे जाते हो, तो at that time it will help you. कि what should be my mindset? When I am doing an audit, what I should target? So it talks about any typical fraud which lasts only for 12 months of a time. And there is a loss of roughly around 7 lakh rupees. Normally 5% of the revenue gets impacted every year because of the fraud. These are the 2,200 cases analyzed worldwide, globally. What is the median loss? Median loss is basically 97 lakh rupees. And per case loss, if we see, it is 1 crore. And most of these cases are related to asset misappropriation and also the financial statement frauds. And who are doing these? 23% of the cases, owners, executives, they cause 23% of the occupational frauds. Again, how do we get the tip or the information? Mostly through the tips, 50% tips from that. See, we all might be having ERP in our organization. We download the data. We don't talk to the process owners even. And we just try to see the data. There are 7 lakhs lines, 8 lakh lines. We are hardly able to catch anything. Let's be very honest, very practical. In spite of having all the data, we are not in a position to catch frauds. Why does this happen? I always tell my team, when you do the planning for your audit calendar, also keep some time for gossiping. If you won't do gossiping, you will not understand what's happening in the organization. You may not get the real information. What's the problem? It may sound very, different. That I'm telling my team to do gossip, talk to the people, understand what's going on wrong in their department, what sort of processes, what problems are happening. So you get a tip basically. And that tip, honestly speaking, I have been able to catch the frauds mostly because of these tips. I had traveled more than 70 countries of the world in connection with the internal audit of our entities. I go for 3 days, 4 days audit, review. I just discuss. I always tell to my team, my role is just to do the fun and just roam around the globe. But still, I tell them, finding an audit query is not my responsibility, it's your responsibility, whosoever has gone. I have just gone there for fun. But still, I give them every time 2 to 3 points, which are really interesting points. I just do talking. I will talk to all the senior leaders of that particular entity. We'll understand the real problems, what are the challenges happening in that organization. Some entities, in fact, some countries have the different languages even. Understanding their language is difficult. You can imagine, what can I read the documents? I even read some Spanish documents and I felt that probably this document is not correct. I took the help of the Google and blah, 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 and been able to basically unearth a fraud, that there is something wrong in this particular paper. I visited an Asian country, again a different language. You have to just apply the common sense, gentlemen. You all my professional friends, we all are in a very difficult job, let me tell you very honestly. Since we all belong to the same field, we all do the same work, I understand what the pain we carry. We go for an audit in an entity. People have done their mess in 12 months. It is expected that just in 10 days' time, we will find out we have a Aladdin Chirag. In 10 days, we don't get even the required data which we need for our study. Everything is written in the books and all that. We need to provide assurance. What assurance I will provide? I have not got the data. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So, what I'm trying to convey through this is, we have a difficult job. Every 3 months there is audit committee. As a head of audit, I know I will have to tell something to justify my existence. अरे audit committee के लिए कोई point है या नहीं? Otherwise they will say, oh, this gentleman is drawing more than 1 crore of salary, 2 crores of salary. Is he really required in these days of downsizing? So you can imagine how much difficult it is. So we have to do work smartly. How do we do work smartly? So we need to have these all basic information with us. So that helps us. 5% revenue. Organization में गया 1000 crore की turnover है. Oh, 1000 into 5%. 50 crore का लफड़ा हो सकता है. I'm not saying हो सकता है. But at least we should have roughly that sort of things into our mind, you know. कौन कर रहा होगा? Who might be doing this? I have a lot to say, but paucity of time is, you know, restricting me. So I will be just quickly. So what is important is these type of frauds are happening primarily in the smaller businesses, where basically the attention has not gone. We always pick from high to low, that these my entities are having the high volume of business, high transactions. Let's go and audit those, and we neglect. We have 260 plus entities. My role is to provide assurance on 260 plus entities, gentlemen. We have 48 factories worldwide. We have 200 plus warehouses. We have 50 plus tollers. We are present more than 90 countries of the world. We are exporting to 199 countries of the world. Imagine what sort of a role it is. And I have a team of 11 people. Do you think I can provide that sort of assurance? Is it easy? If you ask for the manpower, nobody is going to give you. These are all the problems we all are going to face. I am talking all the practical things which I have experienced in my life. I'm not talking about what is available on the Google. There would be a lot of good things available, you know, in the books. Those who write the books on the management, you know, they have never become a managers. So I would like to give you the, you know, see, it is not our role basically to, you know, catch fraud, but it is expectation in the company that we have to catch fraud. I will coming on those slides, okay? So lack of internal control. So out of every 3 fraud, there is a one fraud which has happened due to lack of internal control. Here the auditor has a role to play. So at least 33% cases we have a role to play, that how we can strengthen control environment. We need to have anti-fraud, you know, controls need to be established. Where these frauds are happening, 50% of the cases, the frauds are happening like in operational, 15%, accounting 12%, executives doing 11%, sales 11%. Again, 80% of the cases, the fraudster faced internal discipline. 40% of the fraudsters are living beyond means. So see who is wearing the flashy watches, who is using basically the iPhone. His salary is 10,000 rupees, but he is using iPhone. It should give me a red flag. I have seen people talking in the blank rooms, okay, every morning. Why he's not talking when he's sitting on his desk? Every day, same time. Why? It should give me a red flag. It should give me a red alert. I should be alert all the time. Being into the internal audit function, I have to work smartly. Because we will have 11 people and we will have 260 plus entities. So we will have to work, gentlemen, smartly. Again, who does these frauds? The people normally between 3 to 5 years. These are approximately 29% of the population. Who does the fraud, men or women? Men, in most of the cases, 73%. Education, 63% of the people are educated people. 31 to 40 years of age, 40% of the people. 83% of the fraudsters are the first-time fraudsters. Most common behaviors are financial difficulties, people are living beyond means, usually close association with vendors and the customers. And again, if the family life is not happy, having divorced or something, that also creates some sort of problems. Again, the fraud statistics I'm not going through, but this chart will basically help you across various industries, what type of frauds are happening in what type of a scheme. So if you belong to, say, healthcare industry, you will see the corruption is 40%. So it basically gives you an idea. Every 2 years, probably ACFE comes out with these type of statistics, analysis on a global level basis. So that could be just a measuring barometer. Again, this is basically in what type of department, how much percentage of these type of fraud cases. So you should start focusing accordingly. So that saves your time because you have a limited manpower with you. You have limited time of 10 days, 12 days, 15 days of audit. And still you have to do wonders. Still you have to show that you had a Aladdin's Chirag and you did a wonderful audit. Again, the profile of internal fraudster by the region. Since this slide is very important for me because I keep on traveling globally. I travel in all the geographies, so I really need to know that what type of people can commit the fraud. So globally, if I see 34% of the people are the junior staff, 42% of the middle management, and 20% of the people are basically the top management, they commit the frauds. In the Middle East, this scenario is different. 45% of the frauds are being committed by the top management. In the Eastern Europe, in the Africa, in the Western Europe, 20% of the top management is doing these type of frauds. So these type of statistics, these type of analysis helps you to prepare your mindset when you are going to a respective geography so that you can accordingly basically do your studies, do your homework, and accordingly you should focus upon with whom I have to talk in 3 days' time or 4 days' time. So from that perspective, this analysis is very important. Again, various type of frauds, corruption, asset misappropriation, financial statement frauds. I have a paucity of time. I won't be able to take you through. So basically go through these. These will be uploaded on the institute site. Who is responsible to detect fraud? Board and management. Primarily, it is the responsibility of the board and management. It's their responsibility to establish policies, guidelines, procedures, standard operating manuals. They need to have the adequate strength and control environment. They need to make sure that we have ECOSO principles. Again, what is the role of the external auditor? External auditor's role is basically to provide that the books of accounts represent a true and fair view of the state of affairs of the company. Financial statements are absolutely correct. There is no fraud. There is no financial reporting fraud. There is no issue with respect resulting from misappropriation of assets. So what's the role of internal auditor? Internal auditor should have the knowledge. What sort of fraud risk indicators are there into the system? If we come to know that there is a fraud risk into the organization in a particular process, it is our responsibility to communicate it to the board of the directors of the company and to the audit committee. So having the knowledge is important, number one. Okay? And we have to make sure that we help basically process owner in having those controls so that we are in a position that we deter happening those type of a fraud risk in the company. So what is our key role, which is the main theme of the topic? The key role of the internal audit is to provide assurance. We have to provide assurance. Assurance with respect to the business core processes around decision governance. That adequate control environment exists. Risk is properly mitigated. There is no financial misstatement. Books of accounts are representing true and fair view, although it is the responsibility of the statute, but there is no financial reporting issues. And second role is very important also, advice. हमारा काम तो ज्ञान देना खाली. Advice देना है. We have to give recommendations, but those recommendations should be very practical, which should be doable. We should not come out with the theoretical recommendation, gentlemen, if we really want to improve our image in the company. I'm telling you, you all, some people might be very senior, some people have just started their career. We must have heard one word, we have to add value. Nobody will give you answer what add value. But we will have to add value. Add value means either by way of basically improving processes, strengthening internal control environment, cost reductions, blah, blah, blah. Next is anticipate. We have to anticipate fraud risk well in advance. एक कहानी बताता हूँ, कई देर हो गई हंसे नहीं आप लोग. बताइए.
आप बीच में जो पंचेस देते हैं तो ऐसे झाग जाते हैं. आपके पंचेस बहुत बढ़िया है.
Good.
अच्छा लग रहा है. खाना खाने के बाद सेशन बहुत अच्छा है.
चले, thank you.
आगे बताओ अभी सुना.
अभी एक कहानी बता रहा हूँ, चलिए. ये कहानी है actually. See, one person wanted to have a bicycle. He became the deputy general manager, you know, so now he can afford a good bicycle. So he went into the market. He bought really a stylish bicycle. It was really an expensive bicycle. Every day he used, so when he's coming home, after purchasing the bicycle, what he did, he realized that the locality in which he's living, that is basically having the situation of fraud may happen there, you know, stealing may happen there, uski bicycle koi utha karke leke chala jayega. So he thought, why not buy the locks? So he went into the mall, very famous mall. He purchased 5 locks. He purchased 5 locks, he came home, and normally he used to basically park, you know, or basically keep bicycle inside the home. But one particular day, by any reason, he basically, you know, kept it outside, but with the 5 locks. Next day, what happens? He wanted to go somewhere. He came out of the home. He opened the 5 locks one by one. Then he see all of a sudden there is a 6th lock. बोले ये छठा ताला कहाँ से आ गया भैया? He really started scratching his head, you know. बोला मैंने तो 5 ही ताले लेके आया था मैं तो. छठा ताला कहाँ से आ गया? He went inside a home. He asked his wife. She was cooking at that time, you know. So when he asked, बोला where is the key? I know you are also worried about that it's an expensive bicycle, so you might have, you know, having your concerns. So you might have also purchased one lock and you would have put that. But give me just the key, I have to go office. In France, it's very usual, you know, even in the US, at some places, those in the countryside, people go by bicycle. Our CFO comes by bicycle in US. Okay. So it's very common, not like India, you know. So he went inside, he asking his wife, chabi do, chabi do. She says, no, मैंने तो कोई ताला लगाया नहीं है. Well, it's only you purchased 5 locks. He came outside. He sees his bicycle is not there. So when his bicycle is not there, he started seeing where it is. It has been stolen, gentlemen. This lock was being put by the thief. He was so smart, he was so expert. उसको मालूम है 5 ताला खोलने के बाद तो ये घर के भीतर जाना ही पड़ेगा, पूछना ही पड़ेगा इसको कि ये भाई छठा ताला आया कहाँ से, तो ये ताला तो उसका था, तो जब तक वो भीतर जाएगा तब तक वो गाड़ी उसकी साइकिल लेके चला जाएगा. तो so see what we learn from this. There should not be too much of a control also. 5 तालों की जरूरत नहीं, एक ही ताला होता चलता, ज्यादा से ज्यादा 2 लगा सकते थे. There should not be too much of a control. It's the role of an internal auditor to make sure we do not build so much of a control also. We should have adequate controls. That's why the word being used, adequate. Again, we should have thought from the mind of the fraudster, what can go wrong? We have to anticipate. That's what I was talking about. क्या fraud हो सकता है? Are we that smart? We have to that smart. If we really want to make our image in the company, if we really want to make ourselves visible, if we want to make ourselves recognized in the company, yes, this is the guy. I am being called as the Sherlock Holmes in my company. I'm not trying to praise myself. I want to see all my friends doing the work like this. If I'm being able to do so through this particularly 45-minute talk, I think I have done justice to my presentation. I want to see you all growing in this field and doing wonders. We should have a passion that this is the work we are in, we will do it. We will apply an extra mind, which others can't think of. We have seen all the big 5 firms. We have seen all big 10, big 100, whatever you call. People could not visualize COVID-19 can come. क्या हुआ risk study करके? What good happened to the companies? They spent lakhs of rupees in consulting fees. People did not visualize. Can we be that extra smart? I'm not saying that mistakes cannot happen. It can happen. The key message which need to be taken from this is, we have to see beyond. 5 ताले लगाए उसकी कोई गलती नहीं है. 6ठा ताला चोर लगा देगा ये दिमाग में नहीं आया. That is important to understand. How we can read others' mind. Then we can have effective control, I'm telling you. I hope you all will agree to this. So fraud case studies, problems that are happening with respect to recording revenue early. Fictitious revenues are being shown in many of the companies. Overstating assets, omitting, understating liability, all these sort of frauds are happening. We have to focus, target on the big things which I'm talking about. You have to brought it to the knowledge of the management that these are the bad things you are doing, if at all they are doing. Expense fraud, fictitious, inappropriate travel and expense claim, duplicate, fictitious payments, and like that. I have just 2 minutes, I think. How much time I have?
2 minutes.
So these are the various sample red flags which are basically given to you. You just read it. These are very important data analytics. If you all do, it will really help you. I'm telling you, maybe 1 point for each line. It will help you in your audit committee. It will help you in shining in your, basically, the department you are working. Your boss will be happy if there is something, this sort of analysis is there prevailing in your company. Will sampling be good enough? Answer is no. Is this a valid approach of sampling? Yes. Sampling is a valid approach. But we are living in a world where, with the help of data analytics, we can do 100% analysis of the data. Maybe our sample chosen might go wrong. All are the favorable. If I'm the director of a company in an audit committee meeting, I would ask from the auditor, I will make his life hell. I don't want sampling analysis. I will ask him, I want assurance on 100% of the data. You use data analytics. So data analytics, you can have data without information, but you cannot have information, gentlemen, without data. You need to torture the data. It will confess to anything. सब data के भीतर छुपा हुआ हमें दिख नहीं रहा है. We will have to carve out the statue inside the big rock. We have seen the sculptors. उसके भीतर से कोई मूर्ति निकाल लेते हैं, क्योंकि उसको वो दिख रहा होता है, हमें नहीं दिख रहा है. हमें इस ढंग से घड़ाई करनी है, हमें इस ढंग से तराशना है उस पत्थर को कि उसमें से वो मूर्ति निकल जाए. So we have to see from the data. We have to torture that data. So the goal is to turn data into information and information into insight. Data will only talk to you if you are willing to listen to it. Again, there is a mandatory reporting these days. 1 crore से ऊपर का कोई fraud हो गया, it need to get reported, okay, to the central government. But of course, there is a responsibility that within 2 days of a time, as soon as we come to know, we need to report. And within 45 days, it basically, the board need to basically report to the auditor. If it doesn't do so, within 15 days, it's the responsibility of the statutory auditor. But maybe the case that internal audit team has found out basically this finding. So both work together. So from that perspective, I've included this slide. Fraud risk process, identify the fraud risk, see as against the fraud risk, what are the controls? As against these, do the testing, see whether the controls are effective or not. Prevention, again, make sure we have a policies, procedures, SOPs, trainings are being given, communication is well being given, preventive controls are being there into the system so that we don't have a situation of a detective control. Maximum control, we need to have a preventive. That's the way we can basically do the fraud prevention. This is a very important slide, fraud detection. We can get a sign-off. Mere jindagi mein, I'm telling you, one of the important things, keep into mind, conflict of interest is the biggest issue. Maximum frauds you will find in those type of a situation. You can talk to me offline when you want to have those sort of information. We can solicit knowledge of the fraud and unethical behavior within the organization through, proactive employee surveys. We can come to know from the exit interviews what's going on wrong in the organization. We can do the surprise audit. We need to have a whistleblower mechanism. We need to have the hotlines. We can basically have the system of anti-fraud better practices. So this is the way through which we can manage the fraud risk. Again, there is an investigation process. So we need to do the brainstorming, planning, calculation, collection of the evidences, and thereafter finally making the reporting. And interviews are conducted. So when the interviews are conducted, I'm telling you a very important point. Keep into mind, you come across that one particular person in one particular department has done a fraud, you have to conduct interviews. Again, I'm telling you with my personal experience. Be very diplomatic while handling these type of situation. Sometimes a situation will emerge in wherein you will be basically, even as an auditor, you will be said, "Arey bhai, complainant kaun hai? Aap ho. Pure zindagi bhar aap police ka case lagate raho." You know, in Hindustan, it takes 20 years, 25 years to settle a case. Who will be responsible? If you have got a fraud of a purchase department, purchase business head is responsible, not you. You are just a facilitator in terms of identifying what's going wrong in your department. I'm just highlighting that. I will help you. So go with a set of questions, determine the order of interviews, take the help of the HR and the legal people, because the person, those who have been interviewed, they may raise a question of, "Aapne mere par atyachar kiya interview karte samay." If possible, do the recording like the way recording is happening now. Otherwise, we are living in a world these days, legal may, they can put you anywhere. Make sure HR person is there. Make sure legal person is there. When we are getting the confession statements, get those signed. Again, the report writing. We all know how to write reports. So on that basis, the reports can be written. So finally, what is the review point? Back to basics. We should study the history of the fraud. We should study the type of fraud can happen. We should list down, as against those fraud risk indicators, what are the risks? As against that, what are the controls we have? As against those controls where there are no control, what is the mitigating controls we have? We should adopt technology. We should help take the help of the data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence. We should create a culture in the organization in such a way that there is a less of the corruption and the fraud. We should have the right people. We should have the right number of the people. We should have the good skill of people, those who have the knowledge, those who work, those who are street smart. And proper communication throughout the organization is very important, and we need to collaborate with the external, internal agencies. Sometimes we will have to talk to vendor and understand all that. Finally, strengthening internal control and processes. अगर मेरे पास 6 घंटे होते तो मैं क्या करता? If I would have been cutting a tree, I would spend 4 hours just sharpening my axe. We all should strengthen the internal control environment in the company. I have taken the help of various sites. I have a habit of reading, so I've taken some of the help, some of the elements have been picked up from there for you all's benefit. Go through these. You can talk to me in person. I can speak for hours, days, I'm telling you. It's a very interesting topic, very close to my heart. And it's really there. Please make sure that we all make our presence in wherever we are working. We should be in such situation we all are recognized that these are the guys. They have been able to catch. We can't do anything wrong. They are really smart. We are chartered accountant. We have done such a tough degree. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. May I now request CA Shubham Bayati to kindly give a formal vote of thanks to sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Your presentation was so active, so interesting and insightful that you kept audience active even after the lunch. Thank you so much. On behalf of everyone, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing insightful presentation on role of IA function in fraud detection and prevention. Thank you so much. A huge round of applause for Mr. Periwal.